I'm Susan Gottlieb, and we're sitting here in the Gottlieb Native Garden. It's a beautiful day. The birds are singing and they're happy that everything's in bloom now. And right next to me is Scott Logan, the Gottlieb Native Garden naturalist. What this garden means to me is life, rejuvenation, conservation, biodiversity, friends, family, learning, teaching, introducing people to the magic of native plants and what it means to the world. At heart, I am a conservationist, more than a gardener actually. And I started the garden as a water conservation project, and I began to get interested in the whole concept of native plants and what we could accomplish with native plants. And I think it's a really good way of letting people who are interested in conservation get involved with it without a big commitment of time and money. You can put a native plant in a plant pot on your balcony and you're contributing to the concept of conserving native wildlife. One of my favorite parts of gardening here is finding new little tiny plants that are volunteers from the original plants that we put into the garden. The theme behind this garden initially was really water conservation, and it morphed into not just water conservation, but plant and animal conservation. The plants that I gravitate towards in the garden are anything that provides a lot of food for the birds, and most of the plants now that I shop for are plants that I find in the hills around here. I want things that are really going to be happy where they are. When I first started the whole native garden concept, I thought if a plant was native to somewhere in the border of California, then it was fair to put it in. And as I got more experienced, I realized that Northern California could be a different country, climate-wise. And so I started to limit myself to Southern California. And then gradually, I've now whittled it down to what grows around here in the hillsides. There's always something to do in the garden. The garden's always beautiful throughout the year. In fall, I look forward to planting new plants, putting wildflower seed in for the spring flowers, shopping at the Theodore Payne Foundation for new and exciting things to put in the garden. Winter, I sort of see as kind of settling back and waiting for spring. In spring, of course, all the blooms start appearing and the wildflowers are coming on board. And by summertime, things are starting to quiet down a bit, and some plants are going dormant, which I find extremely interesting, that the plants in California will go dormant in the summertime instead of like what we're used to back east, where plants go dormant in the wintertime. For me, the most compelling reasons for using native plants in my garden are conservation and biodiversity. I like to say that if we all used native plants in our gardens, we could save the world.
The Gottlieb Native Garden means to me that we can bring back wildlife with native plants. I see it when I come here every single day, and I'm amazed almost every single time I come here we find something new and something amazing. My motivation to coming to this garden is seeing the reaction of people that come here and actually see what this garden has created, what Susan has created in this garden, and then what the garden itself is attracting. It's just wonderful that this wildlife survives here in Los Angeles and that we can give it a home, and all of us could plant native plants in our own yards and create our own ecosystems like this. So again, my motivation is watching people's reaction to what's happening in this garden. The thing I enjoy most about the native gardens is actually being on my hands and knees crawling around looking for animals. A new insect on a plant is the most awesome thing in the world to me. For the past 6 years that I've spent in the garden, I've found almost 500 species of animals. To contrast that with a garden that's not planted with native, it would be considerably less, mainly because the native animals know what to do with these native plants, and our native animals have no idea what to do with plants from Australia or Asia or South America. In a native garden where you get an ecosystem going with wildlife, you actually get a balance of pests in your garden because you have predators that are actually taking advantage of those pests. They all sort of balance themselves out. It's sort of like water finds its settling point, and that's what happens in a native garden with the animals and the pests. I like to tell people if you follow the rhythms of the wildlife in your garden, you'll know what month it is. Birds are great indicators. When white-crowned sparrows arrive, it's fall. When orioles arrive, it's spring, and there's everything in between. So just pay attention to the rhythms of the wildlife in your garden. Beyond the beauty of native plants, for me, it's all about the wildlife that they attract.